All right, prep football fans, welcome back to the East County Prep Football preview here for Week 6 day. We got the last week of non-league games here for the Grossmont Conference teams. We're going to tune up a little bit. We do have one conference game this week. It's a pretty big one, and we'll lead off with it, but ready for another great week off of those games last week. We've got some top matchups here, including a top 10 team, or our two top 10 teams facing off against ranked teams here as well. Some other great matchups. What do you think this week, Dave, going in after what we saw last Friday night?
Well, I got to tell you, it's last week. There's a lot more losing than winning, and I wasn't too happy about that, especially when yeah, that's right, I'm talking about the Eagles getting their wings clipped again. But you know what? They fought a really hard game. They played really well. Seeing some of the highlights you had for us, they didn't look like they were just laying down. They had some really good offensive plays. I think Kellen went up there rather, and gave it his best. But then they got Cathedral Catholic up this week. That's a tough one as well.
Oh, man.
And I wanted to start off, though, if we can, with West Hills Wolfpack, and they're going up against the Vaqueros for the, what is this annual now? Is this 7 years? What is
gosh,
it now?
Is it only 7? Maybe it is. We should make a graphic or something.
But it is the annual Tony Burner Cup trophy, whatever you like to call it. That's played between the two squads every year. And boy, was this a blowout last year. El Capitan took it to the Wolfpack 41-0. That didn't typically happen. They were usually pretty close. Most of these meetings in the last, let's say, decade, just to round it off.
Yeah, in fact, I call it the Tony Burner Memorial Trophy, and that's what's at stake in this series. The Vaqueros look like the stronger side heading into this one, figuring they won last year handling. West Hills is having a little bit of trouble, but I think you could throw out the records a little bit, Dave. I mean, El Capitan certainly has big-time woes on offense early on, and, well, they have been able to steady the ship and get the offense a little bit on track. We know West Hills is going to have a defense that could be opportunistic here and keep them in the game. Now, last year it was, as you said, 41-0, right? But that was in Lakeside. The teams have actually alternated, Dave, the wins and losses over the last 4 years. So I don't know if that kind of has much to do with as much of the right now El Cap. Like we said, I mean, they're the ones that are back in the Hills League this year, so I think that's a little bit of a factor, right, as far as their strength of schedule here. Now, that hasn't mattered early on. They've played kind of the same type of schedule that we've seen, but you know what? So has West Hills. They're kind of playing those same familiar opponents, it feels like, Dave, so far this season. And obviously with the 0-4 mark, they got rocked by Holtville. They lost at University City, did hang in there against Mira Mesa, but then to lose on the road at Morse has us spinning our heads a little bit here, with West Hills trying to get on track here in this one, particularly offensively. So if West Hills can keep it a low score, Dave, and keep it close within one score, and also avoid critical turnovers, which has kind of hurt West Hills. The funny thing is, I think El Cap, that's where they've been opportunistic on defense, really. So West Hills needs to make sure they make the big play and hang on to the ball, or make the drives, because I think that's what they're going to do on offense. So we have seen El Capitan surge here. I've moved them into the top 40 in the county here this week with this 3-game winning streak right now, and a lot of relief there, Dave, in Lakeside, because the league season is going to be tough for sure when they get to there next week. So really like to get this one in preparation for the remainder of the schedule here against the rival West Hills for the Tony Burner Memorial Trophy. We know Tony Burner, of course, was a great quarterback at West Hills. Some kind of record-setting seasons in there when he was in there at the time, and of course later on coached uh, uh, at West Hills, at El Capitan. Uh, uh, Always going to think about Tony when we go into this game and award that trophy. But like I said, hey Dave, it's alternated the past 4 years. Last year it was 41-0, you just said, but back in 2023, it was 35-21. West Hills got the win at home. In 2022, it was 42-23. El Cap got the win on the road. Remember, the road teams were kind of winning the game. And back in 2021, it was 27-21. West Hills got the win at home. So they even played, remember, in the pandemic season as well. El Capitan won that one 27-14. So I should have been better prepared, Dave, with the who's won the most trophies. They probably know who it is, but it feels like it's close. If it's 7 or 9 years or something, it can't be but 4-3 or 5-4. But it feels like we've been dealing this trophy a little bit longer.
Well, I was guessing 7 to 10 years. I mean, round it to 10, but I think I'm pretty close with 7. But I'd say the best game that West Hills played this game was actually against the best opponent they did play well against, and that was against the Mira Mesa Marauders. I believe if they wouldn't have had a penalty at the end of the first half, they could have been tied and gone into overtime, and then who knows what could have happened. The defense played stellar. Offense woke up in the fourth quarter, I think it was 4 minutes, and played really well. Talked to Coach McDade, the defensive coordinator from the El Capitan Vaqueros, and he said they're well coached, is talking about West Hills, and we believe better than their record at 0-4 shows that they are. Their defense has been playing well, and their offense can make plays. If you don't do your assignment and run to the ball, we will continue to run the ball as they have with Mr. Castillo, number 24, quite often, and pick our opportunities to throw the ball downfield. It's a rivalry game, so both teams will be playing hard. That's something we would say too as well. And on the opposite end of the spectrum, and it just came in before we started the show.
Okay, I'm ready. Lay it on me.
Coach Ash is saying against a pressure-based defense, the offensive line and quarterback are going to have to play well on their side. He's talking about Mr. Dill behind center. And, Mr. Dill can run pretty quickly and has some moves of his own. But he's also got the arm. It's just they just haven't been going where they're supposed to be going. But Coach Ash also added, we're probably going to need a play on special teams, really. And they looked very, very, very good last week. And he's talking about those Vaqueros that he's about to play this Friday night.
All right. Looking back at it, I believe the first one was in 2018. And I think from that point, I want to say it's alternated every year, and I might be 4-3 in favor of El Cap if it is indeed 7 years. But I'll have it in the game story. I'll figure it out. Bad on me. Your dad would fire me. Probably I wouldn't fire me, but it made me go back and make sure we got it right here at the Tony Burner Memorial Trophy.
Isn't there, I believe there's something to do with the colors that they're allowed to wear too, because if you recall, West Hills has a black top and also the Vaqueros have a black top, so I'm thinking that they're going to be wearing the yellow tops. I'm guessing for the Vaqueros at home, and then West Hills will wear the black. That's my guess.
Oh, okay. Yeah, maybe. I know El Cap's wearing a white shirt this year for a little bit, but we'll see. I'm gonna have to go with El Capitan still. I think West Hills' offense. They're gonna have to prove it here a little bit. They obviously have a good kicking game in Slakowski. He's done a real
Yeah,
nice job, but man, this El Capitan defense with Chastain, Bruin Ford, and they're also stabilizing the running game a little bit as well.
yeah. I mean, like I said, Castillo. I mean, he's got 369 rushing yards. Um, and you were talking about Ford. He's got what 38 tackles already. Um, but you know what? I still think any given Friday, like they say, any given Saturday, I think I might be picking my first upset of the week. And boy, will it be an upset! But I think West Hills gets it done on special teams, and they take advantage of those opportunities and score on a short field. And I'm going to say West Hills wins it by one.
Wow. All right. Let's do it. Have a great game for the Tony Burner Memorial Trophy. I think this will be iteration number 8 between the two teams. And I think it's alternated every year, but I don't know. Maybe one of the years it was back to back. I'll get it right. That's supposed to be my job here, Dave. But I think it's alternated. Okay, should be a great game. Head on out to West Hills. This is the only we led with this one because this is the only one where two Grossmont Conference teams will play against one another this week. So this is our game of the week here, of course, with El Capitan and West Hills. And good on them for making sure they're going to play it anyways, but making sure it's part of the schedule with El Capitan graduating to the Hills League this year and West Hills looking for a win. So, look, you know what? I've got to kind of root for West Hills a little bit. No disrespect to the Vaqueros. And, hey, we want the Vaqueros to get hot. I mean, to have these 3 wins in a row after not scoring in the first 2 weeks, that's been a big boon right now for El Capitan, especially considering they beat Chula Vista at home. They beat Bonita Vista. But to really throttle Monta Vista last week, Dave, 38-0.
Well, that was the biggest surprise to be able to do that against that Monta Vista defense. That's what Coach Culver is best known for, is putting together good defensive plays, and has done it for years at Monta Vista and Spring Valley. So I think El Capitan's for real, but I just think that West Hills is going to pull a feather out of their cap, and they're going to have something on special teams be real special and reclaim that Tony Burner Cup.
All right. Okay, Dave, let's get into some of the matchups here. County-wide, we're going to go right to our number 1 team in the East County with the Granite Hills Eagles here on the road, taking on number 2, Cathedral Catholic. Dave, imagine being a Granite Hills Eagle right now, going through the halls of school, and you hear the girls talking and some of the guys that aren't playing football talking. And you know how it is in high school, Dave. You know, this Granite Hills team is probably as good as almost all I'm pretty sure. I don't know. Maybe Coach Cobbs will say that because maybe just a tick down, but it feels like this team is as good as any of the other teams they've ever thrown out there. Unfortunately, they're playing this rigorous schedule, so the girls are like, "Oh, our football team's not very good this year. They've got 2, and they might even have another loss here now. Look, Eagles may win. We might even pick them here, right? And the guys are like, our team's no good this year. We used to win all these games. No, the Granite Hills Eagles are still I think they're still number 1 in the East County, favorite to win the Hills League, a favorite to be in the championship game in Division 1 here. This Granite Hills team is just as good, I think, as the last few teams that they've had here. Great teams, right? From the state championship team to the CIF championship teams to the Hills League champion teams. This is still Granite Hills. It's just that they've been playing a very tough schedule, and it gets no easier this week against a Cathedral Catholic team that I've even rated number 2 here now, and I kind of thought I'm going to keep them down here a little bit right now. But you had some interesting comments, from Coach Cobbs.
Yeah, I started out with them, and I actually told him, you know, exactly what I told him is another week, another playoff game. Because, hey, let's face it, every single game that he's played this year so far is a playoff game, is a top 20 team in the county, maybe minus Oceanside. But another week, another playoff game, back to back losses, strong showing as they kept it close against a tough opponent up north against Los Alamitos. But Cathedral Catholic, they're quite possibly better, uh, second only to Lincoln, and many media outlets are picking them as the open division meeting in regard to Lincoln and Cathedral Catholic. So, with that being said, what is the game plan to take away the Don's strength? No turnovers can occur on your side, I would say. What do you say, Coach? We can't allow their quarterback to break the pocket and get first downs with his feet. Easier said than done, in parentheses. On offense, have to make some explosive plays like they did against Los Alamitos. Cathedral is not the same team they were last year, so I hope we
Wow.
can make it much more competitive. You know what I take out of that, sir, is I
Yeah.
take that Granite Hills is gotten better, and that this team is not as good as last year's Cathedral Catholic team.
That is so interesting that he says that, Dave, because I thought coming now, granted, you got Brady Palmer, the Cal commit at quarterback, 885 yards so far, 250 yards rushing. Honor for Alave, he's a big threat rushing so far this season as well for the Dons. But I rated them down a little bit, actually. I don't know about down, but outside of those top four. Now, they've since proven it to me, and I think they are good, if not better. But Coach Cobbs knows better than I, and if he thinks this team is down a little bit, maybe I was right in the beginning because I thought they might have. Might be a little bit down, but you got some other greats on this team. Willie Flores has been a good running back, averaging over 5 yards a carry. You got Isaac Cook, who's a great receiver, 14 catches. 372 yards. I mean, he's averaging over 26 yards per reception. Parker Johnson as well. The Dons defense has allowed just 37 points in wins over Modern Day Catholic, uh, St. Francis of Mountain View, Chandler, and they drubbed Helix, of course, last week. So Granite Hills is ranked number 35 in the state. And Cathedral Catholic is ranked number 13 in the state. I only mention that because remember, they just went up to play Los Alamitos, who's the number 11 ranked team in the state. So you have a Cathedral team that really is equal to, it feels like, if not just a tiny notch down below Los Alamitos. Now, we know Benitez over 1,500 yards so far, 15 touchdowns. They have a strong back in Davion Williams so far with nearly 400 yards rushing. You've got Noah Walker, one of the top receivers. In fact, maybe the best receiving core in the county, right, Dave? With Walker, Tristan Diaz,
Yes.
37 receptions so far. Not to mention, I say trio of receivers, but you got Rocket Demery, DJ Wilkins, Zadon Smith. These guys, there's not enough footballs to go around. Now the Eagles are 36-3 over the last 3 seasons. Dave, they won Division 2 in 22. They won the Open Division in 23. They won the Division 1 last season. So I just kind of tease the Eagles a little bit because the girls are like, we already have 2 losses, and talking about the boys football team anyway, but this team is just as good. Unfortunately, Dave, I got to go with a Cathedral here by a couple of touchdowns.
Well, I probably won't agree with you, but I mean, come on, our man Zach Benitez is 15th in the state as far as quarterback, and hey, he chucked 456 yards of 4 touchdowns against Oceanside early on. I don't care what high school team you are, that's still a darn good football player and a dang good quarterback sitting there behind center. And if you watch him play in almost every game, he doesn't look like he's under duress. Even when he is, he looks pretty poised, calm, cool, collective, and I think that's why those touchdowns come up. And he waits for his receivers to get open, and he's got a plethora. With that being said, and I think that this is the week of the sack quarterback and scoop and score that's what's going to win the game, and that's going to be my Granite Hills Eagles by 3.
All right, that would shake it up just a little bit, right? I mean, the Eagles, they have two losses here. They, to be fair, Dave, games they were underdogs in, I think, right? So, and they're an underdog in this one. They could be 3-3 if they don't win, but I'm not sure that even a win here could get them back into that top four. But it doesn't hurt, obviously, especially if you could beat one of the teams in the top four. And if it comes down to a comparison, right? Because there's going to be some of those teams that are going to get a loss still because they'll have some big matchups against a couple of them against one another. So, depending on how it goes down, what if you get down to who are we going to take, Granite or Cathedral? Well, they played each other and Granite won on the road. They might get in. So we'll see, but that's going to be a great game here this week. Granite Hills, kind of wish we were at home. It might be a little bit better for our chances. I'll say our chances, right? The Eagles, and but still, this will be an awesome game. And look, the one thing about the Eagles in those two losses, it felt like to me, Dave, even though they were, kind of playing from behind a little bit, right, in those games, but they kept scoring. Didn't matter in those games, right? Against Perry, they certainly had a big late the score there to beat Perry, but against Mission Hills, they certainly had their chances there. And against Los Al, they kept coming back. The final score was 49-42 last week against the number 11 team in the state on the road. So why couldn't it be that same thing this week, right? Why couldn't it be? I actually think that a higher scoring game, I understand you're saying make a defensive play. I don't think you're saying it's going to be a defensive game. I think you told me backstage another shootout. And I think that's what the Eagles need. I think the Eagles need it to be, 35, 42 points. I don't think the Eagles go in there and I don't know if either of these teams can really stop each other in the end, right? But I don't think it's going to be like a 24-21. In fact, that will not help Granite. I think if it is something like that, it might be like 28-14 or something. That would favor Cathedral. But if Granite can stay within a touchdown, and it's a game where, just like last week, 49-42, I think I'd prefer. I don't think Coach Sanfilippo wants that type of score, but it might help Granite to get into a little bit of a slugfest, even though they'll need to make a big play. Maybe not all the plays defensively.
Well, he has plenty of weapons, and that it being in Zach Benitez. And I look at it this way: if you can come back and be within 7 points of a good or great Los Alamitos team, why not be able to knock off the Cathedral Catholic Dons?
That'd be great. All right, that is a good one there. And Dave and I are heads up again. Maybe we can find some common ground. This one, let's go to another top matchup here in the county this week. Dave, you just mentioned the Oceanside Pirates. They finally won. They're ranked number 23. I probably have them underrated. We've already kind of talked about them because of the big win over Helix. But remember, Oceanside, that was their big win last week, right over Helix. And before that, they lost to 3 of the top 6 teams in the county so far. I have the Oceanside Pirates. So don't look at it as if 1-3 here is some kind of 1-3, because their losses have been to so far, Dave. They lost to Granite. Granted, like you said, Benitez lit them up for 450 plus yards passing, but they also lost to Carlsbad, another top team, top 4, top 6 team there at the time, and at Mission Hills. Now, granted, they lost to Granite by 16, they lost to Carlsbad by 34, and they lost to Mission Hills by 36. So, yeah, they played tough teams, but they kind of got blown out. So for the Matadors here, they continue to find ways to win, Dave, no matter how you look at it here on the road, right? It feels like they get mixed up with some of these good teams, and you got to have that clutch gene. And it feels like Mount McGill, the one thing I'll say about Coach Verlaine Batoffi and the work ethic and the discipline, they don't make glaring mistakes to cost them a game. They are always in the game, and they give themselves a chance. Yeah, they got blown out by La Costa Canyon for their one loss, but to come back here and even outlast Poway last week on the road, 35-32 here. This is going to be a good one and another tough test for Mount McGill, but I think another one that they'll pass. pass
Yeah,
the
I think.
test. They'll pass the ball too.
Yeah, I was just gonna say Stover's probably gonna chuck a few into the end zone, and
Loper,
I what
Loper.
or Loper is going to. I'm thinking last year for a brief moment there, but anyway, I think that Loper will be looping a few into the end zone, uh, so to speak. And I think that this Mount McGill team is for real, and I think they're going to show this Oceanside team that they're going to compete with the three teams that they lost to, and that they're of the same caliber. I think that speed kills also, so I think that's also what's going to beat Oceanside. I'm going to take the Matadors by 3 touchdowns.
Oh wow. Okay. This is the uh, week where a lot of teams in the county will see some new players come on board. Some additions here to some of the teams. The sit out period is over now, so some teams will have some new players this week. I'll be taking Mount Miguel here for sure in this one, but I'm gonna take them by a touchdown. I kind of like what we've. The tough schedule that Oceanside has put forth so far. I won't try to sell you on it too much. They did beat Helix by 27 points last week at home.
But on a down Helix team, and I just I can't compare them to Oceanside. Not this season anyway.
Yeah, no, you're probably right. Again, I have Oceanside still in my top 25, but if they don't stay within at least a couple of touchdowns here, they'll be falling out anyways, out of the top 25, even with that tough schedule. So I'm with you. I like Mount Miguel, not as heavy maybe as you do, but for sure I'll try them here. And this I'll go with Mount Miguel for sure to keep it rolling. All right, Dave, we got more ranked team. We got East County teams ranked. And you know what, Dave? When it comes to the Steel Canyon Cougars, man, if this were, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago and Steel Canyon was 5-0, it'd feel like they were ranked, they should be ranked in the top 10 in the county right now. And they're not quite yet, but they might be soon the way they're going. Another victory last week, impressive victory as uh, Steel Canyon just keeps looking strong here. This team is not no fluke right now, Dave. This is back to Steel Canyon football. It feels like right now after they uh, uh, beat up on Valhalla. Now we know they were going to win that game for sure, but look, they've won against in Temecula on the road. They beat Madison 35-7. They beat Ramona. They clubbed Morse. Maybe the schedule could be a little bit tougher, but you got Dorsey coming in here. I think that's a pretty good test. Dorsey is just 2-2 right now, but man, Steel Canyon rolling here at 5-0 at this point, and now they should be favored to win here over Dorsey. They are favored to do so.
And it was real funny and kind of ironic. I got a memory that came up today, and it was of one of our shows, and it was I'm gonna say Fish's senior year playing Otay Ranch at Otay Ranch. And believe it or not, you know who gave me the interview right after that game? None other than Scott Longerbone, Coach Scott Longerbone, and thanked me for picking them over Otay Ranch, and he said, "Keep picking us," and I appreciate it in that conversation. So it's kind of ironic. I just wish we could be uh, grasping some more information. They would be sending us more, even if it's via another staffer from the Cougars. Hey, we're representing the kids, and we want the kids getting more representation. We want more scouts to see them. We want every possible media outlet that they can be on, and being the hyper local that we are, they will definitely be recognized. But with that being said, I'm definitely going to pick the Cougars by 2 touchdowns.
Ironic they built a new press box and they don't invite the press really to their games, but their defense has been stingy all season, giving the Cougars that championship look. It feels like the past. Now they don't really have the standout statistics yet offensively, but Gavin Cobb has been one of the best quarterbacks certainly in the East County so far. Dorsey is not likely to slow these guys down here. I got to think El Cap. I'm sorry, Steel Canyon wins here probably by a couple of touchdowns against the LA Invader here in this one in Dorsey. Dorsey's had strong teams in the past, and they're probably bringing a pretty decent team in here. But right now, Steel Canyon I imagine it might be a little tougher than maybe we're making it out to be with a out of section game. But I got to think that this is a real situation right now at Steel Canyon. And I think that they can give the Matadors a little bit of a run in the league in their league game this season. It will be at Mount Miguel, so that probably favors the Matadors. And I'm not going to count them out against the Eagles either. I'm just trying to be realistic here about the Hills League coming up. And I think there's been enough gain here for Steel Canyon that I think they can maybe give Mount Miguel a battle. And I certainly think right now Steel Canyon will give Helix a battle too. They finished the season at Mount Miguel and at Helix there, I do believe, as far as the end of the season, or maybe maybe the Eagles there too. I don't have the schedule in front of me, so I don't want to be wrong, but Steel Canyon is going to give those teams a battle for sure in the Hills League.
Well, and I think really the biggest key that I can uncover is Steel Canyon doesn't give the ball away. They may not be the big offensive superpower that they once were with Fishburne and crew, but they definitely have a cap on not turning the ball over. I don't know what their ratio is, but they definitely don't give it away very often at all.
Yeah, Kaha, 4 interceptions, but 8 touchdowns this season, 816 yards so far, and been real strong on the ground. We really haven't mentioned him on the show, but Abel Lopez, he's the leading rusher on the team, and Marcus Hunt. They've combined for over 400 yards rushing so far this season for
pretty good balance.
Steel Canyon. Yeah, and Marcus, and also Malcolm Ballard of, not to be confused with the Foothillers Ballard, but they've got their own Ballard over there. Josiah Stalker as well has been interesting here. All these guys have 8 or 9 catches so far, including Jacob Hinton as well, who has 2 touchdowns. And we saw their big tight end last week, Trevor Zeno. He's kind of come on the scene here a little bit, and not a lot of tight ends making a lot of noise, but this kid has a couple of touchdowns so far. Zeno, the junior, they're not all seniors at Steel Canyon. They might continue on. God is a junior as well at quarterback. So, hey, the Cougars are ready to go here and looking good right now. This has been a great start to the season. A little bit of a surprise, too. Their defense is led by Luke Rode, who has 24 total tackles, and also senior lineman Dante Brown in there as well has done a very good job for them, as has Sebastian Castellon. They don't really put a lot of pressure on the quarterback, but they don't give up a lot of yards either. And also Gunnar Minich has 2 interceptions, two of their four defensive interceptions. So I'll go with Steele by 2 touchdowns.
Absolutely, I'm going to second you.
All right, Dave, we'll knock my Highlanders out of the way just because they're playing a ranked team here, but maybe they've got a chance against 18th ranked Modern Day Catholic here on the road in this one. You know, for the Highlanders here, they come in right now definitely on the downswing here, 1-4 right now, playing a tough schedule, no doubt. Every game has, featured a top-notch opponent. It's just that Helix has been an underdog in the games pretty much and not been able to overcome them and get those wins that they're used to, I guess I would say. They did beat Saints 21-6, but lost to Cathedral last week 49-0. They've been outscored 90-14 in the last 2 games here, and they're taking on a modern day Catholic team that they're still modern day Catholic, if I can say that. Right, given their record coming in here right now at 2-3, but I've got them still in my top 25 here because they've also played a pretty tough schedule. They're one of those teams that knows they've got to play a tough schedule if they want to have a chance at, I don't want to say an open division going in. They weren't that good just yet, but they've lost to Cathedral. They've lost to Granite. They've lost to San Marcos, all top 10 teams, of course. They did beat Saints last week, 33-29. But again, Helix also had their win over Saints 21-6. So you can compare the opponents there, I guess.
Well, Helix is in the winning column, and these guys are just right on time. Coach Maha Jones, he just he just sent me his thoughts on the game, uh, and he's actually said he's pretty positive about the game tomorrow. Uh, they're gonna get some good playmakers back tomorrow, which can change the game quickly. We're
Mm-hmm.
also getting healthy. I think tomorrow we are definitely going to establish the run, because I suggested I'm sure you're gonna start running the rock as often as possible, to open up that pass, uh, and take timely shots when the situation presents itself. Defensively, we have to stop the running back. He's a tough runner. However, our strength defensively is stopping the run, which they are definitely great at stopping the run, and it shows in the statistics. This should be a great matchup, is his final thought on the game. And I don't think you're going to agree with me on this one, but I think they establish a run early, and I think Lester gets into some of the running also, and stepping up in the pocket and throwing some long balls. I'm going to take Helix for the upset of the number 18 Modern Day Catholic, and I'm going to take Helix by a field goal on the road.
Oh man, I sure hope so. I'm going to take Modern Day Catholic by about a touchdown here in this one. They've been tested by a tough slate. Tough slate. They look strong enough at home here to edge the Highlanders. I would think that's the way I see it in my book. These teams haven't met in a while here right now. They did have a memorable matchup before. Oh man, it was back in 2021 in the playoffs when Helix won, Modern Day Catholic won 24-21 in the division. I think it was the Division Two championship game in that season. So, all right,
Well,
it should be.
let's not forget, Ramon. He did say though that a couple of playmakers are coming back this week, and they're healthy as they have been. So maybe that pans out for the Highlanders to go in for the upset.
Yep, like I said, there will be some new players out there as well this week with the sit out period for the transfers ending here. We'll learn a few more new names. I think it's a terrible rule. If they can play, I know it's to prevent, but kids only get so much of a chance to play in a football game in their lives. Okay, not everybody's even going to college. Even these guys that are, these players that usually become eligible, they're eligible. They're transferring because they're probably the better players, right? So they go to the bigger schools, but they have to sit out. It's dumb. It's stupid,
Or
and I don't
let's
think.
make it, or let's make it 2 games.
Okay.
Let's compromise a
Like,
little
let's make
bit.
it zero. I mean, well, who are a bunch of guys to say? I don't want to disrespect our friends over at CIF. Maybe I'm talking on a bigger scale, but uh, who's to prevent someone from an opportunity to better themselves in their lives? We used to look at it and say we can't have anybody transfer from this school or whatever, but you don't want to prevent someone from achieving their lifelong goals at a young age. You got to get these kids. We know they got to go early because the money comes in early, the NIL money, the college money, and however that's going to shake down once they get it all figured out with the rules and everything. But now the kids are getting paid and everything. We've got to help these kids. We don't
One
want them
word:
not playing football. Dumb, stupid.
bureaucracy.
Call me out. Call me out.
Bureaucracy. That's it.
Yeah, I'm not and I used to be, Dave. I used to be that guy. I wanted kids to stay at home. Let's play for our teams or whatever. I'm not like that anymore. I figured it out at this age. We
You're
need
robbing
you
kids of
playing.
their dream.
Kids play football. That's right. All right. All right.
And we're
Hey,
done
Dave.
with.
Will I see William Lewis is in the chat, so let's talk about his favorite team and one of our favorite teams for sure, the Grossmont Foothillers. Oh boy, it's looking good here,
Oh,
Grossmont. This season, yeah, I know that we do have the one loss now here, but Grossmont and Mira Mesa, and a great matchup here, a rematch of the two great games last year. Yeah, we lost that game at La Jolla, but they came back and beat Otay Ranch. Pretty strong performance, it felt like, against Otay Ranch going on the road. They won it by 8, but felt like they won it pretty comfortably there. Now, Mira Mesa opened the season with wins. Dave, remember we talked about them? Who have they beat so far for their 3 wins? El Capitan, Valhalla, and West Hills. They're tied for first place in the Grossmont Valley League or something like that. But they did stumble last week against a pretty good Scripps Ranch team. They got a pretty good quarterback in Nick Giusti. Grossmont, we said, bounced back, and Tyler Holmes has been pretty awesome for sure. Ryder Robinson pacing that defense. Dave, the one thing about this Grossmont team this year is an improved defense. And, I just say it, call it like it is. I mean, this team is the favorite to win the Valley League right now. I don't know why they didn't think they were going to be very good this season, because they are good here at this level. And they beat Mira Mesa in that exciting game on the road early in the season, and then they beat Mira Mesa in the playoffs last year. So why couldn't they win this one again at home?
And as I mentioned that to Coach Lawrence, in my texting back and forth, he said they lost a lot of seniors in relation to the Mira Mesa Marauders, and a couple of guys they lost to transfer. So they're a much different team. They're getting better every week, even though they lost big to a good Scripps Ranch team, as you had already said. The big thing last week was getting back into the win column. This week, we need to clean up mistakes and hit on some deep balls. So he's already saying he's going to let Tyler Holmes go for the long ball, and you know what? He has the receivers to catch those and make those touchdowns early. And I mentioned it to him. I said, Tyler does have the arm. And at first we weren't thinking, they lost Tommy. Oh no. He said, I agree. Barely missed on a couple of throws last week. A couple of others brought back from penalties. And that's basically what he's saying he needs to clean up, is they got a few too many penalties in that game last week. Although they did get the win, he wasn't getting or too happy about that. But I'm going to say it myself. I know how you feel about the officials. I feel a little differently than you do, and I know they're high school officials, but the penalties across the county have been brutal. And that's all I'm going to say, is they've been brutal, and I've seen them for myself, and even the way they've marked the ball has been off. So I'm a little not perturbed. I just don't think we're getting enough of these guys, enough in the pool. We're not getting them trained. I don't know what it is, but it has to improve, because the kids pay the penalty. Just like sitting on the bench for 5 games, same thing happens with officiating that's not 100%. Yes, they're human. I know, Ramon.
Yeah, and I just don't like to see when the fans are, that's one of the problems, is nobody wants to officiate because the fans, are very disparaging sometimes. And these are just people doing a second job, really. Kind of, yeah, they get paid. We know that. So, that's a little bit fair game. If you want to yell boo from the stands and do it cleanly, I don't have a problem with that. But when you're going after, like we've seen sometimes after the game or something, that angry dad is going after the official, that's not cool. But
No,
I
there's
think
no time for that.
Grossmont can win this one here, Dave. William asked the question there in the chat. Will hasn't noticed it because Grossmont hasn't left. They've never left the Hills League since the 10 years of the 15 years now of the Hills and Valley. Remember, we used to have the North and the South there for a while. Yep. This is Grossmont's first trip into the Valley League. And yeah, what happens is I believe we're kind of doing it on a case-by-case basis, but it does feel like right now they're going every 2 years. The best team of the Valley League, if they show dominance, is moving up, and maybe the bottom team in the Hills League is the one that moves down. And we know that, Grossmont definitely were paying their dues there a little bit back in 2024, just 1-3 in conference play last year, and 2-3 in the year before that. But remember, Santana was in the Hills League there for a moment, and West Hills was in the Hills League for a moment. So it does feel like this is the right group. And if El Cap gets overwhelmed a little bit and Grossmont wins a couple, maybe they'll go back in a couple of years because, uh, but there's some ebbs and flows, I guess, to how football works in the East County, and this is just where we're at
Coach
right
Burner
now.
had Burner had the same conversation with me in 2016, I want to say, or 17, when we first got together and got this thing started, you and I went out there, and he he definitely put his 2 cents in about being in the hills and getting beat up quite a few times as long as he did, and he was saying how it had changed so much at his school and his football program. So why not switch us around since you're doing it with other teams? And I tend to agree with them. And finally, I think they're doing. I think it's a fair trade. I mean, the bottom goes to the other one, gets a better chance of winning a championship. You take the one that won the league championship and park them in a tougher league. Hey, we're going to talk about him soon anyway. Christian's done the same thing, and it hasn't fared well so far.
Yeah, but there are a number of years there where El Cap in the Hills League, had 1 or 0 wins as well for several years. They've actually kind of, uh, perked it up there, and then they got put back into the Valley League, and won that title back in 2022, and then of course won it last year with a 5-0 record. So it'll balance itself out, I guess, a little bit. Remember El Cap won the big league back in 2014 with that incredible team, right? They went 5-0, beating all comers that year.
Big Brad.
Felix, Steel Canyon, Gross, well, they beat them all. So you know what? You could always, any team can come up and have a great team once in a while. Yeah, maybe the landscape's changed now 10 years later, but I think we're going to have, I think these are going to be some great games once we get to league play. Okay, I'm going to take a growth spot here. I'm only going to take them by a touchdown, Dave, uh, because they're going to take them by a touchdown. I'm not going to give an excuse as to why. The games last year was pretty good, and Mira Mesa, they played a little bit of a tough schedule here.
I don't know. They almost lost to the West Hills Wolfpack that hasn't won a game. They're a penalty away. I'm gonna say I'm gonna say Grossmont wins by 10.
Okay, they're good. We got it. Grossmont's going to win. We know that. Come on, Grossmont. Okay, Dave. Wow, this feels uh I don't want to say the season's on the line
It
here or
is.
anything like that. But you probably already talked to the Christian Patriots here this week as they get ready to take on Madison. Christian's the best 1-3 team in the county, maybe outside of Madison. This feels like an incredibly even matchup. This would be a reach for Christian in years past, right? I think Madison has been regarded as a stronger team. They've been in the stronger league over the last many seasons here, and Christian having to step up here, this season, right? I think that's what we're dealing with here with the Patriots. And look, they've played a tough schedule so far. I think that's part of the whole issue right now with the Christian Patriots and this 1-3 record is just, they've played a tough schedule. It doesn't get any easier this week. Granted, they're at home here in Valley Stadium, but here come the Madison Warhawks. Usually Madison Warhawks are coming in to play like the Granite Hills Eagles at Valley Stadium. But right now they'll play Christian here in this one. Patriots, Dave, right? You know, opening up the league schedule here with the Warhawks. If I'm not, let me make sure I got it right here at home. But man, this is a tough league this season, and it doesn't get much easier here. It feels like with playing the Madison Warhawks, even though they are 1-3 coming in right now.
But there again, like you've mentioned about several of our other teams, look at the schedule that Madison has played as well. I think that's why it is an even matchup. Christian and Madison have both gotten kicked around a little bit. And this happened to Christian several times, moving from league to league. They got better. They went up in a tougher league, and similar things started happening. They started winning, 2 and 3 games, maybe 4 games, in a Harbor League or something. I'm just giving an example. In the past, even with Beazer and Oliver, they didn't have championship season every season. And when they graduated from a lesser of the two leagues, they were not doing as well, and that's gonna happen. You beat all the guys that were at your level, and now you're with the big boys, and you're playing in the big boy league. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing. They earned it, and I think they deserve to play top tier teams. But playing a team like Madison, I don't think Madison is good as they have been in the past, and I think that Christian has the home field advantage, and they need to win this game, I think, to continue a decent playoff run. So this is a must win, I want to almost call it. And hey, Caleb Runkle's, 13th in the section with 940 yards. And let's not forget about it, I mention him every single
Wow.
week. And that's White, his favorite receiver. Kai Roser has 405 receiving yards, and he's 14th in the section. And get this, and on the defensive side, they have Hank Houston, and he's got 33 tackles on defense,
Oh,
and and then there's another one in there I might have missed, but he has 33 tackles as well. So uh, two of them with 33 tackles apiece, but Runkle really he can rally the troops. I think he's got enough people to throw to, and this is what Coach Joey Moronis had to say. As we've really been trying to get our injured guys healthy at the same time getting the younger guys up to speed so they can play fast. If we can lock in on our assignments from our younger group, we will be in good shape. So getting some health, same thing as like Helix. They're getting some people coming off the bench. So maybe that'll favor Christian even more than just playing at home. I'm looking for, oh boy, it's a tough one. I'm going to say Christian, but I'm going to say it by a point.
okay. Yeah, you mentioned some of those other defensive players. Everett Randall has been pretty strong so far for Christian. Coach Moronis' brother, Julian Moronis of the famous Moronis Christian family. He's only a freshman, Dave, and he's having an impact on defense. Chase Togerson as well. And Rozier, not only on offense but on defense too. We saw that interception from Gage Hamora in that loss. Make no mistake, Christian right now coming in at both teams just 1-3, as we said. Christian, lost that game on the road to Kings. Don't forget, and then
Seattle.
going up against Santa Fe Christian. I know it's a rivalry game, but yeah, they were kind of overmatched there a little bit in that one as well. So I'll go ahead. I'll try. I'm going to go with Madison here. Look, this is the league, Dave, that Christian will be facing this year. Okay, and listen to these teams. I mean, so Christian and Madison. Maybe they are evenly rated. Maybe Madison, yes. Maybe they are down a little bit. But who else is in this league? How about Point Loma, who I have ranked currently? I have Point Loma higher than everybody else. I have them 8th in the county. Most of the rating systems and pollsters have them outside of the top 10. But nonetheless, they're 4-0. I have them ranked 8th. Point Loma is in this league, Dave. Also, in this league is La Jolla, Dave, and we've already seen La Jolla make a big impact so far against some Grossmont Conference competition. They are 3-1 currently right now. Also in this league, San Diego. San Diego, they're ranked 24th right now in my poll with a 4-0 record. So you can see how tough this league is. Saints are in the league too as well. So this is going to be a tough league. And, well, Christian could start out 1-0 if they get this win at home. You can only win them in league play.
And I think they got their next best chance. Besides Madison, I think their second best chance is the last game of the season against Saints.
Yep. Well, they play They play they close out the season at San Diego. They
Oh,
play Saints 2 weeks earlier on October 17th at Saints. So uh, just to make sure there, I believe if I'll make sure of that, Dave. You might have it right. Maybe they jumbled the schedule up a little bit here. Uh, no problem though. Those are the league games here this season. Like I said, they still have actually one more non-league game against Scripps Ranch, kind of stuck in the group there. But beyond that, they'll play La Jolla next week on the road, and then they also play Saints on the road, San Diego on the road, and get Point Loma at home. So that's going to be a tough league. That's going to be a good league. I'm not sure I can pick the winner right now. I guess I'd go with Point Loma. Obviously here. Okay, for me in this one, I'm going to take Madison. Dave says Christian. All right, Dave. How about the Santana Sultans? They're going to go on the road and take on the Fallbrook Warriors. Now, before we start to say the Sultans are 3-1, the Warriors are 1-4, we know how tough it can be. Yeah, it's not 1985 all over again going up to play Fallbrook, but Fallbrook has been an interesting team to say the least over the last couple of seasons. Remember, we're dealing here with yes, Fallbrook is 1-4 again. They won their opener, but they've lost 3 in a row. They lost to Canyon Springs of Moreno Valley. They lost at Valley Center. They lost at Imperial, who's actually a really good team, and they lost by 7 at Mount Carmel. Now, last year, Dave, Fallbrook went 0-11, but they ended up making the playoffs, and remember they
playing our Monarchs.
played the Monarchs, right, 34-33. So I think that's the comparison that I would make right there. Is they lost to Monta Vista in the playoff game. Remember, Monta Vista was the late addition to the playoffs, and they won that game on the road at Fallbrook. And I think we could certainly say that Santana and Monta Vista, they're pretty closely rated to one another, right?
So that being said, Santana had a bye. They got a little rest. Maybe they watched a little more film.
Oh, good point.
And it can go either way. When you have that bye, it can really do you in, or it can work wonders for you. But they had the bye, but they do have to go to Fallbrook. We know this Fallbrook team is not a 4-1. In our Valley League, they'd be more like a 2-2 possibly.
Yeah.
So that's the way I'm looking at it anyway. Or 2-3. I think Santana is very capable, especially getting back on track, having Ethan Miller throwing a couple of BBs for some screens, and then opening up in the
touchdowns so far this season, Dave, for Ethan Miller so far in 4 games. That is, he might be one of the best Santana quarterbacks in a while.
And that's a funny thing because last year he wasn't as recognizable and throwing quite a few picks. I saw them myself, and but this year he's really emerged as one of the team captain leaders of the team. Mm-hmm. And let's not forget Denton Gore, and our Coco, and playing both sides of. Actually, we forgot he plays 3 sides of the ball. Also plays on special teams, so he definitely does it all for the Sultans. And I think that if he comes up big in this one, that would be a pretty big key to defeating Fallbrook.
Yeah, Santana, of course, they fell to Olympian, then that bye hopefully will work out. Olympians turned out to be a pretty good team, Dave. They're undefeated, kind of moving up the rankings quickly. So I don't think I think that Santana might be able to convince the coaches might be able to convince them that they were up a pretty good team there in that game. So look, I wrote up Fallbrook, but man, I really want to take Santana. I guess I'll go with Fallbrook by a point, but we can definitely win this game now. Definitely Fallbrook has some pretty interesting talent with rushing the football with Josue Hernandez Delan with 341 yards, and their quarterback Harrison does have 711 yards passing this season, and Teague Lucy has 18 receptions for 346 yards. So I'll just take Fallbrook here by a point. Maybe I'll just chalk it up to the long commute there. But hey, it didn't bother the Monarchs last year. They got it done in a playoff game. So
I'm going to take the opposite, and I'm going to take the Sultans by 1.
Okay, I think that's fair, and that sounds like it will be a close game with in that one. But man, I really want to see, obviously, want to see Santana win. And you mentioned Gore and our man Coco. Every time I see him on our post game, I get fired up. All right, that'll be a good one to keep an eye on for sure. Hopefully the camera's on there. I don't know if Fallbrook, I don't know how good they are with their camera. That's most of the good games, Dave. But we got to take a look at Mountain Empire here once again. The Redhawks are thriving here. Running back Elisha LaShawn Robinson has 6 rushing touchdowns, and he's really one of the most unheralded players, certainly in the county. I know we're dealing here with Mountain Empire in that low level division, but man, they are looking good. They could win. They could win a section title
Did
this
get that
season.
one loss.
Yep, yep. Definitely have the one loss here, but against Victory Christian, I don't think this is going to be much of a contest. I think Mountain Empire can win this one by 4 or 5 touchdowns against Victory Christian. So far, looking at Victory Christian schedule here, we've actually, I believe we might have seen them again. Did they play the Monarchs? I'm trying to remember here.
Was it Foothills? No.
I thought they had one of our teams anyway, but so far this should be one-sided. Dave, linebacker receiver Jason Landman, he's been pretty strong as well. He's tied for 10th in the section with 51 tackles. So I would expect Mountain Empire to be able to handle this one at home in Pine Valley.
Yeah, I'm gonna take Mountain Empire most definitely by 10.
All right. And I'm going to just check it here real quick. And that Victory Christian, it's bothering me now. I want to see. I thought they played the Monarchs, right? Oh, Foothills. You're right, Dave. Foothills Christian beat them 28-6. So
I thought.
okay, they also lost to Castle Park 20-14, lost to Mar Vista 50-12, and lost to Coastal Academy 41-19. Their only win is against 0-5 Foothills Christian. Foothills Christian will take on Viewpoint here, and man, they're going to be a big underdog here by about 5 touchdowns or so, if not more. This Viewpoint team comes in here right now. They're in Calabasas, and they are 4-0 so far. They played teams like California City, Hawkins. They just came off of a win over Hawkins, 40-22. They beat the Channel Islands of all. they beat the Channel Islands going up to Oxnard to beat those guys.
Yes.
So don't know much about this one here, but I do know that Jack Sudi is the East County rushing leader actually with 477 yards. So hey, it's 11-man football. That counts. And linebacker Tucson Phoenix has 32 tackles. I wonder, I'd like to know more about Tucson Phoenix. And I remember a great player at Grossmont High named Phoenix. Remember the great baseball player. But hey, there's lots of. All right, Dave, I think that's going to do it for the East County Sports Report, East County football preview here this week. We'll be back tomorrow night following the game with a post-game show. I'm sure we'll be able to round up some winners, right?
We might even be able to round up a bus.
Might be able to round, right? We've got, look at the teams we've got on the road. We've got Mount Miguel on the road. We've got Santana. Maybe they'll get that win.
Eagles
and Fallbrook. El Capitan cross town there to West Hills. Helix will be coming up from the South Bay. So be a great night of prep football. We'll catch you guys tomorrow night with our post-game show, Dave. And hopefully, Winter Phoenix. Remember Winter Phoenix? Man, this guy was a great prep player, and I just was wondering if a great athlete that he was, and his sister Amber Phoenix too. Remember, she was a legendary basketball player. I actually saw her about, I don't know, I'll say about 20 years ago. It feels like she came into, I was working at a casino and I saw her in there. But all right, Dave, we could thank our sponsors and get on out of here and get ready for some prep football about 24 hours from right now, finishing this broadcast.
Yes, sir. Thanking Granite Mortgage, Lakeside Equipment, and Touchdown Plumbing. And tune in tomorrow, and you'll see Ramon and myself for the Friday night East County football report. And we go on before the PPR, just so you know. And for Ramon Scott, I'm Dave Dickens. Have a pleasant evening.